Ryan, welcome to Sgwrsio, or as I like to call it, my kitchen. But thanks very much for joining us. First question, simple one. How are you? How are you coping with the lockdown?
Yeah, I'm good. Just like everyone else, really. Just suddenly finding that you're rather more domesticated than you thought. Doing a bit more cooking, a bit more gardening, especially with the good weather that we've had. But yeah, just obviously missing football as well. But it's strange times, unprecedented, really, and we just have to be patient.
This must be the longest break you've had from the game since, I don't know, since you could walk, maybe?
Yeah, it is. I think everyone's in the same boat. Yeah, it's strange. I mean, yeah, over since I left school, all I've ever done is play football or be involved in football in some capacity. So, yeah, it's strange, but like I say, we've just got to be patient, and hopefully we'll be back sooner rather than later.
I know people are missing it. Is the pause quite nice as well? Because you know more than anybody, it can be relentless following football.
Yeah, I think I had a big rest anyway, obviously, with the game back in November, and looking forward to the March games. You know, this is our biggest break in between international breaks, so I was ready to come back. But yeah, you just got to get used to it. I mean, I'm used to either going to games or watching games nearly every night on TV. So it's kind of strange, but yeah, it was good to reminisce. Watch a bit of the old games on the TV, and spend a bit more quality time with the kids. Homeschooling's been a bit of a challenge, but I guess that's for everyone. But yeah, obviously looking forward to getting back into the swing of things.
Glad you mentioned homeschooling. We're doing the same here as well, but now we can use you to help. I've seen you on the UEFA website, a champions teacher reading the BFG. So thanks for the help, Brian.
Yeah, it was one of my favourite books actually growing up. Obviously a little bit younger. A lot of Roald Dahl books that I enjoyed reading when I was younger. So yeah, just doing my part. Like I said, it can be challenging for a lot of parents homeschooling, especially all being online now, or a lot of it, my kids online. And learning as we go along.
Yes, Whiz Popper. I never thought I'd see the Wales manager Whiz Popper.
Yeah, I thought I would just use something different, just to, if they weren't already ready for it, the kids, then just make a big entrance, really, just Whiz Popper and then wake up. So yeah, I think that was my first word I said, actually. So yeah, it was good.
And Roald Dahl, born in Cardiff as well, so you get something in common with him. Fantastic. You mentioned the old games there. We've been doing the same, looking back at the old games. You're in a lot of them. Have you enjoyed watching some of the old archive?
Yeah, I did something on the Italy game at the old millennium, when obviously Bella's scored the winning goal, and it was good looking back on that game, because there's some games, as a football, there's some games that are just clear, just you remember everything. There's other games where I can't remember scoring that goal, I can't remember that game, I can't remember the score. So, and as you get older, that gets worse. So there are some games that just you remember instantly, others that it's nice to watch back and actually relive what happened on the night.
Yeah, and what strikes you as well from that Italy game, we've seen some of the games from the 80s with Neville Southall, Ratcliffe, Rush, Hughes, these players. The fact that those teams didn't qualify is, well, it's staggering when you look at it now.
No, it is. I mean, the first squad that I come into, I mean, what a squad that was. It was like similar to United. When I come into United, it seemed like it was just full of men, just full of international players, quality players who were just ready to play football. And it was a shame. Obviously, we got really close that World Cup in '94. But like you say, the quality that we've had over the years, and they just haven't quite got over the line, is sad.
People are trying to pick their dream teams as well, the best ever Wales 11. I'm not going to ask you.
Good luck with that.
As Wales manager, exactly. I'm not going to ask you to go there right now, but the fact it's so hard just says a lot, I guess. It shows about the quality Wales have had over the years.
Yeah, it does. I mean, world greats Players who were at some time or other the best, not only in Wales or the UK or in Europe, but actually in the world. John Charles, Ivor Allchurch. Then you go to Rush, Southall, Gareth Bale. These are all players who weren't just brilliant players within the domestic game, but actually world stars. On Gareth's case, still is. So we've had some amazing players over the years, and that's why it's so pleasing over the last, obviously, Cookie getting to the 2016 Euros and ourselves getting there as well. That's why it's makes it all the more sweeter because we've missed out for so long.
That's exactly what I was going to ask next. When you see the teams that didn't make it, does it make it even more special now, knowing that they've done it before, but you've done it as a manager as well?
Well, it's more for the fans really, and Welsh football in general. Obviously, the players who didn't get there, it's no consolation. But I think we always go back to 2016. I mean, it was so special that we even got there. But actually, when we got there, how we performed, and to get there again in the next Euros is amazing because that's what we want. We want to be. Every major championship that comes along, we want to be competitive. We want to be part of it.
What do you make of the delay? People are looking at the positives and the negatives. Where do you stand on the fact that we got an extra 12 months?
I mean, I've been doing the same. There's arguments for both. I mean, the positives. The negatives is you're all geared up for this summer. You're all geared up for your mindset. We were on a good run, obviously 6 games unbeaten, and we were really preparing ourselves, obviously going over to Baku, going over to Rome, making sure that all the facilities were right, and you really earmark the prepping first of all in Wales, and then going over to Portugal, and then obviously the friendly games that we have. But then again, the positives, hopefully the positives, that we'll have players a year older, the younger players who we have in the squad are a year older, more experienced, perhaps getting more football than some of them got this year. And of course, the big one, Joe Allen. Joe Allen would have missed out, whereas obviously, he should be fit for next summer. And likes of David Brooks, who's had very little football. He's a star in the making, and he deserves to be on that stage to show what he can do. And again, hopefully, likes of him, Ethan Ampadu, who've been short of football, they'll be fit and raring to go this time next year.
Joe Allen's injury happened more or less as football was finishing. Have you spoken to? I can't imagine the emotions he's gone through recently.
I mean, and Joe's one of them ones who you first heard that he's got injured, or it must be just a knock or something. It's because he doesn't get injured, and even though the way that he plays, he gets stuck in. Obviously, he's in an unforgiving league as well with a championship, banging out games. So it was a big surprise and a big shock when I heard that he had such a bad injury. But I spoke to him. His first words were, "I've had a right touch on a gaffer." So I said, "Yeah, you have, Joe." But he was just going down to see the specialist to get a boot fitted. So he'll be well on his way to rehab. But it would have been a shame for Joe to miss out because he's such a popular player within the Welsh fans and obviously within the squad, and a quality player as well who, we owe a lot on this campaign. He was one of the big parts big reasons why we got there.
We've spoken about old games. We're showing the last campaign on S4C recently. The next one coming up is Croatia at home, which I guess, great game, but a classic Joe Allen performance as well, where you see what he's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it was a physical game. Obviously, there's a lot of knocks in the game, and you look for your experienced players to step up, and a lot of players stepped up that night. I was so pleased with that performance against a very good team. A team that obviously World Cup finalists, started the campaign slow, but when we played them, they were really on fire. They had all the players more or less available. and they're just a quality team. So for us to compete and do so well, and keep us within the campaign, and yeah, like you say, Joe was a big part of that.
We're also going to be showing the Hungary game. I won't ask you about the game, but I know we've spoken about it, but for the final whistle, knowing that Wales have done it, Ramsey's back, Wales have qualified, must have been a big moment for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, obviously I've watched the game back, and apart from the double save off Wayne, we were in total control. And I was nervous right up until the final whistle. You are as a manager, because you never can take anything for granted. I've more or less seen everything in football, so you can't take it for granted. But then when you look back, you think, what was you worried about? We were in total control, and it was such a un-Wales-like performance, because there was no drama. There was just, I said it afterwards. I mean, you was there in the press conference. We played better, but we have never showed such experience and composure that we showed that night on what was a nervous and obviously a huge night.
Yeah, it was amazing. Just a couple of things before we go. Footballers have been getting some flack, as I'm sure you've been asked about a lot. You mentioned Aaron Ramsey, you mentioned Gareth Bale. These guys have been donating. Gareth Bale, between Wales and Spain, it's £1 million. It's staggering. Easy targets, footballers, but these guys are really showing the good side of the game.
Yeah, I think, obviously it's always documented how much footballers earn, but in my experience, right from when I first got into the team, when I first got into Manchester United's team, Brian Robson was raising £1 million for a scanner for the hospital that my mum actually worked at. He got the £1 million. That was a little part of raising money. Then fast forward 15 years later, five of us, there was a couple of soap stars in there, and we replaced that scanner. So it's funny what comes around, but players have got foundations. Players do so much for charity. Every club has a foundation on its own, and yeah, it was very unfair to sort of just pick out footballers. But since then, footballers have stepped up, like you expect, whether it be individual donations or as a squad or as a team.
And you guys as well, very early on in this, opening up the hotel in Manchester to NHS staff. You mentioned your mum used to work in a hospital as well. Is that part of how that came about?
Yeah, it was. I mean, one of our shareholders, Peter Lim, one of the owners of Salford City and Hotel Football, they're in Singapore. He's based in Singapore, so he was really giving us a heads up beforehand. And my mum mentioned that, where are these medical staff, where the NHS workers going to stay, because they can't go home. So me, Gary and the lads made a decision quite early on that we would make the hotels available to NHS workers and medical experts. So yeah, it's been great. We've had great feedback, but it's the right thing to do, because they can't be going home and potentially getting infection to the rest of the family and infecting themselves. So they're able to stay safe and go to work and do an unbelievable job, which they're obviously doing.
Yeah, it's a great gesture, fair play. And just with footballers, everybody's trying to work out how the season starts. Will they play behind closed doors? And we hear Sergio Aguero saying that some players are scared. They've got families, they've got children, and you just hope the players are part of these discussions as well, because maybe they get forgotten about when all the planning's taking place.
Yeah, players have got families, young children, so there's a lot at stake. I mean, I think football has got to be guided by the government, and I think you make a massive point there, where it's not just the clubs, but you have to involve the players in this, because they're the ones who have to go out and perform. They're the ones who are beyond the pitch, tackling, coming in contact with opposition. And then what do they do after that? Do they go home? Do they isolate? Are they quarantined? Are they staying away from their families? So these are all things that, we've got to talk about once we know a little bit more on the government's plans on easing the lockdown.
Brilliant. We've also enjoyed seeing, behind the scenes with you recently as well, exercising, dancing on TikTok. We're seeing a different side of Ryan Giggs,
do you know what?
manager.
That was right. Well, it was right at the beginning, and I got told about it a couple of days ago, and I went, "What? How's that got out?" And obviously, my daughter's on TikTok, and someone's picked it up. So yeah, the things you do, eh?
Absolutely, the things you do for your kids. I understand. My daughter loves the video. Ryan, thanks so much for your time. It's great to talk to you. See you at the football stadium soon, hopefully, and stay safe.
Hopefully. Thanks, mate.